I, 31M, never thought I'd be posting here, but my life completely imploded 48 hours ago. I'm writing this from a hotel room, still numb, trying to make sense of how the last 4 years of my life were nothing but a calculated lie. My wife, Chloe, 29F, and I have been married for 4 years. From the outside, I thought we had the perfect marriage. I work as a senior portfolio manager in finance. It's a high-stress, high-reward job, and I easily pull in mid-six figures. Chloe, on the other hand, comes from a family that has always lived hand-to-mouth. Her parents are good people, or so I thought, but they are disastrous with money. 2 years ago, they were on the verge of losing their childhood home to foreclosure. It was a messy situation, and Chloe was crying herself to sleep every single night over it. Because I loved her unconditionally, and because I thought we were building a lifelong partnership, I stepped in. I didn't just help them out. I used a separate LLC I owned to entirely take over their mortgage payments. It cost me an absolute fortune, completely draining a significant chunk of my personal savings, but I did it gladly. I wanted my wife to have peace of mind. I wanted her parents to grow old in safety. I thought that's what a good husband does. Cut to last weekend. Chloe's younger sister got engaged, and they planned a massive, expensive bachelorette trip to Miami. Naturally, I bankrolled Chloe's entire share of the trip, the 5-star hotel, the flights, the VIP tables, everything. I stayed behind because I had a massive quarterly deadline at work, and honestly, I was happy to stay home, catch up on sleep, and take care of our 2 golden retrievers. Also on this trip was Sarah, 29F. Sarah has been Chloe's childhood best friend for over 15 years, but over the course of my marriage to Chloe, Sarah and I became really close friends too. Sarah is the level-headed, brutally honest one of their friend group. She's always been respectful, kind, and genuinely appreciative of how well I treated Chloe. Late Friday night, around 11:30 p.m., I was sitting on the couch watching a movie with the dogs when my phone started buzzing. It was a FaceTime call from Sarah. When I answered it, the screen was completely pitch black. I could hear loud, thumping club music in the background and a bunch of girls shouting over each other. It was instantly obvious what it was, an accidental pocket dial from inside their hotel suite while they were pre-gaming before hitting the clubs. I smiled, shaking my head, and was literally about to hit the red button to hang up when I heard Chloe's distinct voice cut through the noise. She sounded like she had a few drinks, but she was completely coherent. One of the bridesmaids asked her a question about marriage, something along the lines of, "Are you still completely obsessed with him after 4 years?" I paused, my finger hovering over the screen. I expected a sweet, drunken comment about how much she missed me. Instead, Chloe laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was a bitter, mocking sound that chilled me to my core. Then, she said the fateful words that will be burned into my brain until the day I die. Honestly, I can't believe I'm stuck with him for life. He's so incredibly boring, such a total workaholic, and he has zero passion in his body. If he wasn't my personal bank account, I would have left him years ago. The room on the other end of the line went dead silent for a second, and then several of the girls burst out laughing. Encouraged by the reaction, Chloe kept going. For the next 3 minutes, she tore me to shreds. She mocked my appearance, laughed about how nerdy my hobbies were, and bragged to her sister's friends about how incredibly easy I was to manipulate. She literally used the words, "All I have to do is cry a little bit, and he writes a check." I sat in absolute, paralyzed silence in my living room. The dogs were looking up at me, but I couldn't move. My heart was hammering against my ribs so hard I could feel it in my throat. The shock quickly morphed into a cold, blinding clarity. The woman I adored, the woman I financially carried, the woman whose family I saved from homelessness, viewed me as nothing more than a glorified ATM. Thankfully, adrenaline kicked in. With shaking hands, I swiped down on my phone and hit the built-in screen recorder, capturing the final 2 minutes of the call before the phone was shoved back into Sarah's purse and eventually disconnected. When the screen went black, I just sat there in the dark. The man who went to sleep that night was not the same man who woke up the next morning. The heartbreak was gone. In its place was something cold, calculated, and sharp. I didn't sleep a single wink that night. I just stared at the ceiling while the audio of my wife's voice played on a continuous, agonizing loop in my head. But by 4 a.m., a strange thing happened. The heavy, suffocating sadness completely lifted, and it hardened into a pure, icy, calculated anger. I realized right then that throwing a tantrum, crying, or sending a paragraph of angry texts across the country wouldn't do anything. She would just lie, gaslight me, and construct a defense. No, I wasn't going to yell. I was just going to quietly, systematically dismantle the entire life she had completely taken for granted. If I was just a personal bank account to her, it was time for the bank to close its doors permanently. My first move began at dawn. As I mentioned, I had taken over the mortgage payments for her parents' house. Because I am in finance, I had structured this purchase very specifically for tax reasons. The deed to the house and the actual loan were held entirely under a separate real estate LLC that I owned. Her parents simply lived there as occupants, and I had been making massive, voluntary monthly overpayments directly from my corporate account to burn down the principal faster. I logged into my banking portal, navigated to the recurring corporate transfers, and with 2 clicks, completely canceled the automated monthly payments. Just like that, the financial lifeline holding her family's roof over their heads was severed. As soon as the clock struck 8 a.m. on Saturday morning, I called my real estate lawyer on his personal cell. I paid him enough over the years to warrant a weekend call. I explained the situation briefly and told him I wanted to entirely withdraw my financial backing from the property and put the house on the market immediately. Because the property was legally wrapped in my corporate entity, her parents had zero ownership rights. They were essentially tenants at will who paid zero rent. I knew for a fact her parents couldn't afford a single month's payment on their own. They were about to face a very harsh, very sudden reality check. Next, I turned my attention to our immediate finances. I called the fraud department at my bank and reported that I suspected fraudulent, unauthorized charges on our joint credit cards, specifically pointing out that the cards were currently being used out of state in Miami. Within minutes, the bank flagged and completely froze every single joint credit card in Chloe's purse. After that, I logged into our joint checking account. I knew the law inside and out. I knew that draining an account completely during a divorce looks terrible to a judge, so I played it completely by the book. I calculated the exact balance and transferred precisely 50% of the funds, not a penny more, into a brand new, private account at a completely different bank that she had no access to. To add a petty, psychological layer to the lockdown, I spent the next hour changing the passwords to absolutely everything else. Netflix, HBO, Amazon Prime, and even the digital utility accounts for the house. If she wanted to live the life of a single, independent woman who mocked her husband, she could start paying for her own entertainment and electricity. By noon, I was sitting in the glass-walled office of a top-tier, notoriously aggressive family law attorney who agreed to take a Saturday emergency retainer. I sat across from him and played the screen recording of the FaceTime call. As Chloe's voice filled the room, bragging about how easy I was to manipulate and how she was only with me for my money, a slow smile spread across the lawyer's face. He looked up at me and said, "This is gold." He explained that while insults and hurt feelings don't always dictate asset division in our state, this recording was absolute proof of a total lack of marital intent. It proved she was actively defrauding the spirit of the marriage for financial gain. It gave us a massive leverage point to protect my premarital assets, my investments, and my future income from any ridiculous alimony claims she might try to make. We spent the next 3 hours drafting the paperwork. By Saturday evening, the divorce petition was finalized, stamped, and ready to be legally served the exact minute she stepped foot back inside our house. Meanwhile, Chloe was completely oblivious, enjoying her luxury weekend in Miami on my dime. Or at least, she tried to. On Sunday morning, around 11 a.m., my phone began to blow up with frantic text messages. "Hey, my credit card just got declined at Bottomless Brunch. It's so embarrassing, everyone is looking at me. What is going on?" A minute later, "Are you awake? I tried my other card, and it's declined too. Fix this right now. I need to pay for the group's table." I sat on my couch, taking a slow sip of my coffee, feeling absolutely nothing. I waited a few minutes to make it look natural, and then I replied with maximum, cool casualness. "Oh, that's strange. There must be some kind of major bank glitch or a security lockdown because you're traveling. I'm completely slammed with this work deadline right now and can't get through to customer service. Just borrow some cash from the girls or use your own debit card for now, and we'll look into it the second you get back tomorrow." She replied with an angry face emoji, but she bought it completely. She had no choice. She had no idea that the bank glitch was actually the first domino falling in the total collapse of her comfortable, parasitic lifestyle. She thought she was just having an annoying vacation inconvenience. She had absolutely no clue that a financial tsunami was waiting for her at the arrival's gate. On Monday evening around 7 p.m., I heard the tires of her Uber crunch on the driveway. A minute later, the front door unlocked and Chloe walked in. She looked completely exhausted from a weekend of partying, but was smiling, fully expecting me to jog over, kiss her, and take her heavy luggage like I always did. Instead, she stopped dead in her tracks. I was sitting perfectly still at the kitchen island. Next to me sat a quiet, professional-looking man in a suit, the private process server I had hired for the evening. Resting on the counter between us was a thick, ominous stack of legal documents. Without saying a single word, I reached out and slid the thick manila folder across the marble countertop toward her. Right on top of the papers, printed in bold, 24-point font, was the exact transcript of everything she had said about me in Miami. Chloe looked down, her brow furrowing as she read the first few lines. In an instant, the color completely drained from her face. She went pale as a sheet, dropping her designer handbag straight to the floor. She realized with total, terrifying certainty that she had been caught. Instantly, the waterworks started. She dropped straight to her knees on the kitchen floor, sobbing hysterically and reaching for my legs. "Oh my God, baby, please. No, I was just drunk. I was just trying to fit in with the other girls. You know how judgmental they are? It was just stupid drunk talk. I didn't mean a single word of it. I swear I love you." I didn't blink. I just reached down, tapped my phone screen, and turned the volume up to maximum. Her own voice suddenly filled the room, cold, mocking, and crystal clear. The recording played the part where she bragged about how easy I was to manipulate, and how she only had to cry to make me write a check. Hearing her own voice echoing off the kitchen walls completely shattered her defense. Her frantic excuses instantly evaporated into dead silence. She just sat on the floor, trembling. Right on cue, as if scripted by fate, the next domino fell. Chloe's phone began to vibrate violently on the floor. The caller ID showed her mother. Chloe answered it with a shaking hand, putting it to her ear. Instantly, her mother's frantic, screaming cries echoed out of the receiver. Her parents had just received an automated legal alert from my LLC's bank. Their mortgage backing had been officially terminated, and because of the sudden default, formal foreclosure proceedings were scheduled to begin in exactly 30 days if the staggering balance wasn't settled in full. Chloe dropped the phone, looking up at me in absolute, breathless horror. "What did you do? What did you do to my parents, you monster?" I looked down at her, completely detached from any emotion, and spoke with absolute calmness. "Since you're no longer stuck with me for life, Chloe, you are no longer stuck with my money. Good luck finding a guy with passion who is willing to pay your family's bills." I nodded to the process server. He stepped forward, placed the finalized divorce papers in her lap, said, "You've been served," and we both walked out the front door, leaving her screaming in an empty house. Fast forward 2 months to today. The fallout has been absolute. Chloe couldn't even dream of affording a decent apartment on her own salary, so she was forced to pack up her things and move back into her parents' cramped, incredibly stressful house. But there's no sympathy for her there. Her parents are absolutely furious with her. Because of her big mouth, they are currently forced into a desperate, rushed downsizing sale of their home before the foreclosure hits their credit. The twist in all of this: Sarah, the childhood best friend whose phone made the accidental call, actually reached out to me. She apologized profusely for her part in bringing that toxic energy into my life, but she told me she completely cut Chloe off. Once Sarah realized how deeply manipulative and fake Chloe had been acting behind all of our backs, she wanted nothing to do with her. The divorce is moving incredibly fast. Because of the ironclad evidence and the brilliant strategy my lawyer put together, it's looking like I am keeping the house, my investments, and 100% of my retirement. Chloe wanted a luxury lifestyle, not a husband. Now, she has absolutely neither.